Welcome to another episode of Backpacking America. I'm your host, Anthony Barone, and this is episode 296. Excuse my voice, I'm incredibly hungover, and you will notice that my voice is still messed up, and I'm wearing the same shirt in the next episode because that is going to be recorded 2 hours from now. So I just wanted to hop on really quick to talk about the attempted assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And now Kamala Harris is going to be the presumptive Democratic nominee. I wanted to talk about this when it happened, but life comes at you fast, I guess, right? And there's not enough coffee for that. So I will have to say that I was definitely not expecting an assassination attempt on the president. And there's been a lot of conspiracy theories about this, saying it was planned, saying that it was an inside job. Some people on the internet were saying the Jews were doing it, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Some people were saying it was Russia. It was a whole thing. Look, there's a lot of crazy people out there. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party that don't like Trump. There's a lot of people in the Democratic Party that don't like Trump. There's a lot of Americans that don't like Trump. And there's a lot of Americans, Republicans, and Democrats that do like Trump. This was, from what it looked like and from what was presented, because we will never know the full story, the guy was a registered Republican, also donated to Act Blue, and most likely was a moderate Republican that thought Trump was going to be the next Hitler and was trying to toe the line between being a Republican but also like a Gen Z socialist or whatever, like some weird way to fit two ideologies into one thing. He was probably a really weird kid from what it sounded like he was. And he made an attempt on the president's life, and he was probably, it seemed like it was in his hometown, like he knew the area, and he was like, screw it. Now, guys like that are crazy. Guys like that don't plan things. And the Secret Service was also, it's Biden's Secret Service. It's a polarized climate now. There's no honor between the transition of power, respect for your political opponents anymore. So, I believe this was intentional negligence, where they didn't intentionally plan to kill someone or attempt to kill the president, but they absolutely wouldn't mind something like that happening. And so that's why I think it was just like voluntary negligence. And, you know, it's a shame because, you know, after that happened, you know, a bystander, a rally attendee was killed, and he was 50-something years old, and he was a firefighter, I believe, and he was killed defending his family by shielding them from incoming fire. And I got to say that, you know, the rhetoric surrounding the assassination attempt and then that man's death was really disgusting. And, you know, both sides in American politics are very, very, very biased and very contradictory. And, you know, with the liberal reaction was, oh, too bad they missed, or oh, another scumbag got killed, LOL. And it was just like the willingness to commit violence upon another person and the celebration of it is really sad, and it's very concerning in an election year, especially. It always is, but now especially because both sides believe that we're at least too far gone as a country to reconcile, at least from what people are sharing on the internet. But the problem is that a lot of radicals congregate on the internet, so the radical ends of both sides believe that we're at a tipping point. No matter who wins or loses, there's going to be violence. And that's really scary because there's a lot of people that are, you know, really hoping for something stupid to happen. And I don't know. To me, it's concerning as someone that is unaffiliated and really just doesn't give a shit because it's like, I'm just trying to stack my bag. You know what I mean? And now you got these like virgin incels trying to attack the president or trying to overthrow the government. It gets in the way of stacking paper. So, and then, you know, Trump survives, fortunately, and we got some of the hardest pictures I've ever seen in my entire life. Like some of the hardest pictures ever. T-shirts have already been made, and the T-shirts are pretty fire. I'm not going to hold you. Which is actually crazy. T-shirts were already just made. But, the way the bullet even, he just turned his head at the right moment, and his ear just gently got clipped. And, the news media was trying to say, oh, Donald Trump, he fell down at a rally. He fell down. And I was like, he got shot. There's blood. One guy got killed, and it's like, oh, Trump fell down. Or, oh, there were loud popping noises heard at a Trump rally that were concerning to attendees. And I'm like, are you fucking stupid? It's just really bad reporting. And then now we have the controversy around Joe Biden coming into office. I mean, giving up his run to the presidency, and nominating Kamala Harris. The Obamas nominated Kamala Harris. All these people coming out nominating Kamala Harris. So the party that supposedly is for democracy and choice just said, nope, we're cutting that off from the primary voters to choose. We're just going to nominate Kamala Harris and not run the second primary. So, they chose who they wanted, and the elite chose who they wanted, and they didn't leave it up to their voters to put that choice up. Now, I think personally, the Kamala, if you were a Democrat, I think that's smart to put anyone other than Joe Biden in. Kamala's also younger, but she's a fucking idiot. And I find it very interesting that the Democratic Party, immediately after that nomination, started shifting rightward. So they said at certain rallies they need to make America great again. They said, Kamala actually said that we need to stand by Israel and denounce Hamas. And Gavin Newsom just made an executive order clearing out all the homeless encampments throughout the state of California. So we're now seeing rightward pushes from the Democrats to try to pull votes from Trump. So it goes to show you that Trump isn't Hitler. That Trump isn't a fascist. He's a threat to the Democratic establishment because he's a populist, and the Democrats are not populist anymore. They used to be, but they're not. So they really don't want to lose to Trump because he's really going to make some changes. He's going to be more heavy-handed, and they're not going to like that. They have certain policy objectives they need to also hold on to because they had a disastrous presidential tenure in the last 4 years. And they only won last time because COVID had everyone sit at home, and all the major corporations were siding with the Democrats for some fucking reason. And, Trump's policies in his last term were very, I wouldn't want to say radical, but they were just, I think it was radical to what the establishment saw. So it was radical in the sense that, corporations were, given a back seat, and the rich man was given a back seat. It was really, the front seat was filled by the need of the country. And there was a lot of risky things Trump did too. He flew F-16s over Iran, and he was going to bomb Iran. And he killed Qasem Soleimani, and he deployed he was against what the hell was it? During the 2020 riots, he was very heavy-handed in his dealing with those riots. So that turned a lot of people off to him. And he said some gaffes that were really taken out of context, or he said some stuff that was really just insane. Like when he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand down. That was a flashpoint for his presidency. There was a lot of things he did that were very concerning, I guess, to the elite of the country. And I don't care because I'm not a billionaire. So I think what he did was pretty based and appropriate. And now he's going to be even more heavy-handed. He's going to deport all 15 million undocumented immigrants. He is absolutely going to cut down federal spending drastically. He's going to get rid of the Fed. He is going to get rid of three-letter agencies. He's going to do a lot of crazy shit that people aren't it's really going to fuck with their bag. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about politics right now because I care about my bag. You know what I mean? But they care about politics, because the Democrats, because they don't want their bag to get interrupted. So what I find, and this is just going to be a weird election time. No one really knows anything about Kamala Harris. They're just people are basically just saying, oh, she's a whore. Like, people that are against her, oh, she's just a whore and she sucked dick to get where she's at. And then, of course, just pointing out the gaffe she made. She is an idiot. She was just hidden from the public limelight for like 4 years because her gaffes were horrible. Like, when she was singing "Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round," like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, or she just has this tendency to ramble on about things that don't make sense. Like, she'll say, I saw a clip of her yesterday going on about, I don't know, like when you try to write an essay when you're in high school and there's a word count and like you're 500 words away from the word count, and you're like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? So you just like re-summarize everything again to meet the word count so you can submit it. That's pretty much Kamala Harris when she speaks in public. And please forgive me because I'm really fucking hungover and I can't think of specifics right now, but I had to talk about this. I'm also not really a fan of how the media has been portraying this civil war narrative for, in the months and years leading up to this election, especially foreign media, which is really interesting. So a few days ago, I saw something on Channel 4, their YouTube channel. It's an English news station. And they were saying, oh, like, Americans are very concerned about the possibility of armed insurrection and civil war. And they say guns are the problem and blah, blah, blah. And yes, don't get me wrong. There are people that are concerned about a civil war, but it's not like the whole country's concerned about it. And I don't think there's going to be a civil war. I think there's going to be increased political violence, but I don't think there's going to be a civil war, mostly because people are too fucking lazy to do that, and everyone's got to pay rent. And people are more concerned with paying rent, going to work, and taking care of their families. It's really going to be the wackos fighting the wackos. That's what it's really going to be. It's going to be, it's almost going to be like gang warfare, or at worst, like how the IRA was in the 60s, where it's like everything's cool 1 minute, and then randomly there's just gunfighting, and then it ends, It's going to be kind of like that. It's not going to be like the North versus the South in the 1860s. It's going to just be a bunch of like crazy motherfuckers shooting at crazy motherfuckers or their targets, and then regular people like us just, trying to survive on a day-to-day basis, And I don't know. I mean, that's if political violence really does occur. I mean, and if it's at that level. Mostly what I think it is realistically is it's going to be like one-off things like what happened to Trump, and then a lot of like just protest fist fights, canceling people, cutting people out of your life, that type of stuff. Maybe more physical things like vandalism, arson, that type of deal. But I don't think that it's going to be anything super crazy. And I'm hoping that whoever wins the election, I mean, it just makes it easier for people to afford to live. I mean, groceries have doubled. The price of going out has doubled. I mean, I used to be able to go to the diner and get a decent meal for like $12 to $15, and now it's like $20 to $25. Even like you go out to get a cup of coffee, $3-4 for a cup of coffee, $2.50 at 7-Eleven for a medium cup of coffee. Rents are out of control. I mean, now I live on Long Island, so our rents are a little different than the rest of the country, but it has gone up. I mean, a one-bedroom outside of a complex, a one-bedroom is anywhere between $1,750 if you're lucky to $2,000. And usually it's going to be anywhere between the $1,850 to $2,000 to $2,200 range for like a decent apartment with like windows. If there's like one window or no windows in the basement apartment, it's going to be like $17. And that's not even counting utilities. Utilities have gone up. I'm just really hoping that whoever, gets in addresses the cost of living problem And, I know that local government also plays a role in that, but there's nothing really being done. Even if you do like these housing projects, where it's like, you go on a wait list to get into a certain amount of homes, the amount of people that need those homes versus the amount of space that's actually available to build those homes is drastically different. I mean, the people that need it are monumental, and then the amounts, like right here. So in North Belport, they're building 32 homes, single-family homes with a legal apartment attached to it, and there's 32 of them. Hundreds of people are going to apply for those. And, that's if it's truly affordable, because on Long Island, a lot of affordable housing is not really affordable. It's maybe like 10% less than the market rate, because they don't want to totally undercut the surrounding area, but they also have to make it affordable. So it's like a 10 to 20% discount, which is big if you're seriously making it. But if you're just kind of scraping by on 40 to 50,000 a year as a single person, there's no point. It's not affordable. There's no places for people that make 40 to 50,000 a year anymore. There's no places for them anymore. There used to be. About 10, 15 years ago, you could make $40,000 a year and be okay. You could be okay. It would be tough, but you'd be okay. I knew a lot of people back then that really were making nothing. And they had kids on top of that, and they were able to at least survive because, the rent was a lot, or utilities were a decent chunk, but groceries were cheaper. Activities were cheaper. There was also less stuff to buy too. Like, we didn't need as much shit. Today there's so much stuff you need, and then that's also more expensive too. Shoes are expensive, clothes are more expensive. You go, laundry detergent is more expensive, milk is more expensive. Eggs for a while were, about last year or 6 months ago, eggs were like double or triple what they are now. I mean, they were like $5 or $6 a dozen, $8 a dozen sometimes. It was crazy. You couldn't even afford eggs at one point. Chicken was very hard to come by. So, and this is also, those are national problems as well, like not just a Long Island issue. Housing is a Long Island issue, a metropolitan issue, but nationally, access to food, access to amenities, drastically increased. So, there needs to be an addressment to these problems in the next administration, and not solving it with adding more jobs. Because now the joke is, oh, did you see the president added 16 million more jobs? Yeah, I know, I have 3 of them. That's because a lot of these jobs that are added are part-time jobs. Like, oh great, there's more Amazon jobs, there's more Walmart jobs that are paying not a living wage. So what people do is, and here's the problem too, a lot of those jobs that pay that, they don't want to give you 40 hours a week. They cut you like right at 30, right at 34, so that way they don't have to pay you benefits. So it's like, fuck, I really need a full-time work week. And, I need my 40 hours a week, but the problem is, say you work 34 hours. No one's going to have you work 6 hours once a week, or 2 hours 5 times a week. They're going to make you work another 30 hours a week at minimum, maybe 20 if you're lucky. So then you're working anywhere between 50 to 60 hours a week, not making any overtime, not making any benefits, and you're just struggling to survive. Whereas, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would work one job, they would give you your 40 hours, you would get some level of benefits, you would get some level of overtime if needed, and you could make it. Now people have to work multiple weird jobs and do side hustles like Uber and Uber Eats, and even in my industry, there's guys that do freelance work just as a side hustle. Like, they'll just do videos for like $200 just to make rent, and it's really sad because there's no. It's just hustling for money. That's really what it is. It's really just hustling for money, and there's no focus on building a quality for life. There's a focus on abortion. There's a focus on ending illegal immigration. There's a focus on military spending and leaving NATO, and should we side with Palestine? Should we side with Israel? Those aren't really important compared to, we have a huge quality of life problem here. They're all important issues, don't get me wrong, but right now, people are having a hard time eating. People are having a hard time having excess cash to spend to keep the economy going. People are having a hard time putting away for retirement. Most 75% of Americans don't have adequate retirement funds. The 75%. A lot of people, even like in Gen Z, forget it. Retirement, fuck, we can't even afford to live on our own half the time. And then somehow on TikTok, I see these basic bitches with these nice apartments, and they live in the metro area, and it's like, what do you do for work? It's not just your Etsy shop that's keeping you afloat. I know that for a damn fact. Someone's either bankrolling your shit, you're doing OnlyFans, or somehow you have a really good job. I don't fucking know. But I don't know how people my age afford that. If you're in a rural area, it's more attainable. I know a lot of people in upstate New York that, they have a partner and they have a house or they have an apartment and they work random jobs, but like they can afford a quality of life. But if you're down here in the New York City area, the Long Island area, that's not happening. You're working a lot and you're not living on your own. That's just how it is. You're living with your parents or you're living with roommates, and that's pretty much it. But that's the problem is there's no disposable income anymore in the United States, and there hasn't been since COVID. Ironically, some people got really fucked with COVID, but the stimulus checks absolutely helped people out. And when Donald Trump was president, people were able to eat. There was money coming in. Gas was cheap, groceries were cheap. We were respected internationally, more or less feared, really. I don't really think world leaders liked Trump, but no one really fucked with us. We were in the middle of a trade war with China, and that did fuck with us a little bit economically, but not as bad as it is now, where people are feeling the pinch everywhere. Businesses were able to advertise, grow, and expand under a Trump presidency. Under a Biden presidency, I see more businesses going out than coming in, and those that are coming in are struggling. And I really just don't think a second Democratic term is really going to help the American people meet our needs as a society. I mean, politically, sure, if you care more about social issues, then yeah, he's your guy. But I really don't care about, pronouns or anything else. I just genuinely want to be able to afford to live and do my own thing, and have people afford to do business with me, and have people afford to do business with others. Because here's the thing, right? Like, if groceries are more expensive, and if necessities are more expensive, then everyone's funds are finite if you're not a millionaire. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but what happens is, if you own a business and your basic necessities for business maintenance and your personal life go up and your family goes up, you're going to have less money to put into developing your business. It's just what happens. It's a recession. Everything is recessed. And the reason those prices increase is because the domestic policies implemented by our government on fuel, on shipping, on environmental conservation, on foreign trade. The war in Ukraine, for example, absolutely fucking decimated the food production and caused ripple effects in the price of bread, in the price of chicken, in the price of fuel. So it was very, very difficult for a long time, and still is, because of that war and our backing of it under President Biden's tenure. When we're looking at, for example, when Russia cut off the gas line to Germany and Nord Stream 2 was bombed, Europe was without gas. They don't drill in Europe. They have all this environmental shit. They don't drill in Europe, and they barely have anything to drill anyway. So they would buy everything from Russia, and they would pump oil to Europe, and they would sell oil to Europe, and they also had deals with the Middle East, where they would buy Middle Eastern oil and then export it, or they would help the Middle East export to Europe. America has a shitload of strategic oil reserves, and we have Alaska, and we did have a lot of oil drilling going on in Texas when President Trump was in office. When the war came, America, under Biden, said, oh, we'll export oil from our strategic reserve to Europe, and we'll send a certain percentage of all domestic crude produced to Europe to keep Europe warm during the winter so they don't freeze to death because, everyone decided to get involved in a foreign conflict that they couldn't afford to get involved in. So that's what happened. So now our gas prices went up because we were giving away a certain percentage to Europe, and we also were beefing with the Middle East at that time, so we lost some production. And we were definitely beefing with Russia, so we didn't get any grain. And Ukraine was getting bombed, so we also didn't get any grain from them either. And then oil, forget it. And then we also embargoed Russia. So a lot of prices went up. A lot of foreign trade was disrupted. So that's why our gas prices went up, right? So our diesel prices went up. And trucks run on diesel. So shipping costs increased. And it became less profitable to do certain routes for trucks because of the fuel cost and the demand of the dispatcher. So some deliveries just weren't even getting taken because it wasn't profitable for the truckers to take them. So, or if they were getting taken, the truckers were demanding more money for shipping. The dispatchers were having to cut back on payout because of how much the demand was. So it was really a terrible situation, and that's why prices still haven't really returned, because the cost of shipping is so high, because oil production is down, and because we have embargoed Russia, and because the war in Ukraine is raging, and because of the tense standoff in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, that we can't really get fuel, and because we're not drilling for fuel, really because we're not drilling for oil. If we're going to be interventionist in the world, we have to be fucking drilling for oil and being self-sufficient. We have to be. We have to be. So that's really the problem. And it's just, it's sad people don't realize that. So, whoever wins this next election really has to fix this problem with oil, with the way the world is, by pulling us out of these foreign conflicts and reneging all of our treaties. We just have to get out of all that shit. We can't, unless we're going to be fully self-sufficient, we can't. We have to fix the problems here first. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I think political violence is really gay. Don't kill each other over politicians. They don't like you. Why should we like them? Stack bread. Just stack some paper. Let's just focus on getting better. And, let's hope that the candidates, whoever wins, can just make our lives better. Because right now, things are horrible, especially like where I'm from. It's not great. So let's all try to be better and try to get some more money, get some peace, and hopefully we don't go to war in the next however long. Anyway, I need to go take a Tylenol and make another cup of coffee. Thank you for listening to episode 296 of Backpacking America. Until next time.